Hey, good to have you here. We are talking about media queries and responsive design. Really important stuff today. Glad to have you here. And so this is what we're talking about, media queries. It sounds fancier than it is. What we're talking about is making it so that our website, of course, like sometimes people view it on computers nowadays, sometimes you view it on your phone, sometimes you view it on a tablet. And you'll totally have noticed, I'm sure, that sometimes websites look different on your phone than they do on your website. And that is called media queries. We're going to create certain things called breakpoints based on aspect rate, based on the width of the screen, and we're going to tell it, hey, apply this CSS, boom, once you hit that breakpoint, and then a different CSS when you're outside of that. And if that doesn't really make sense off the bat, that's okay. We're going to get into it. Ultimately, we're designing it so that our websites can look different on phones or on tablets or, computer, laptops or whatever you're working on. Let's get into it. First, you're going to want to grab this, and do make sure that you're working along with me. I know that it can be easy just to like watch these things, but definitely you learn a whole bunch by creating these. And then you also have the code to reference later in the future. So do make sure that you are following along. So here it is. Boom. Grab it. We're going to call it media query. I don't know why it says practice there. Media query. And we're going to create a CSS folder with styles file in it. So let's do it. I already created mine. Let me fork that. Booyah. I'm going to name this media query, and then right off the bat, let's create our CSS folder, and inside of there, our styles.css file where we'll put in our styling and very specifically our media queries. But first we need our website, like some basic HTML. So let's add this right here. And we're going to put that into our HTML. I don't really need to be able to see what's going on there at the moment. So let's see here. First, we'll of course put in the document type declaration HTML, which doesn't need a closer. And then we got our HTML. Yup, and within our HTML, we're gonna have a head, brilliant, and we're gonna have a body, awesome. And within the head, we're going to put a link to our style sheet, which is located in css/styles.css. And we can also give that a type text CSS. Great, closed. And we'll also give this a title, brilliant, which we call this media query. Yay, I still got it. There, we can just leave it like that. All right, great. Now, let's get into the body here. We have a title that's an H1, and that says media queries, Queries. There you go. And then we're going to create a div that has the class content. Awesome. We'll close that div. And inside of the div, we're going to put a couple paragraphs. The first paragraph says media query, QUER, allow us to make our sites responsive. Period. Yeah. We can use media queries to apply CSS styling, TYLING, only when certain conditions apply. Yep. For instance, our sites can look different depending on the size of the screen Or, you remember what the EM does? Viewport. That's right. So the viewport is what we call what the user's viewing your site on. Whether it be a iPhone screen or laptop or whatever. Those are all viewports. A user is viewing our content. Yes. We can also change the way our site appears if a user is printing our website or using a screen reader. Whew. All right. Did you beat me? How fast were you? There we go. And we have the end of the paragraph. All right, I'll format this, and I think it'll put it on its own line. Yeah, because that's so much text. Jeez, oh, Pete. Usually don't put in such a hefty paragraph, probably. But it's important material, you know what I mean? And this is like putting it in the brain kinesthetically as well. So getting it in, speeding up your typing, queries, and responsive design allows us to ensure that our site looks and works great no matter how the user is viewing it. And we all know that. You know it especially when it doesn't work, right? We all know it when you see that website where like it's mom and pop's website, you look at it on your phone, oh God, and it just looks so awful. Yeah, because it was only designed on someone's computer just to look good on their computer, and they didn't think about, oh, what if someone has a larger screen, or really when someone's looking at their phone, and it just looks, things can look so off on the phone. Sometimes you gotta zoom in and stuff. Yeah, like that's nonsense. So that's why we use media queries. And as more and more people use more and more devices, sorry about that, to browse the internet, integrating media queries into websites is becoming a common, widespread practice. Yep. You got to. Nowadays, you have to take into account how your website website looks on computer screens and phone screens at the very least. Yeah, absolutely. At least those two. If not more, let me move this. Yeah. All right, sweet. And then when you'll notice when you press Command S, when you save it, boom, it auto formats it. Great. We have our end of div, end of body, end of HTML. This is looking swag. Let's see if in fact it looks good on our page. I don't really like looking at it there. Let's look at it as an actual site. Okay, great. All right, so this is where we're starting in terms of the raw HTML. Let's see what else they're interested in us doing. Yes, and let's add this initial CSS, which looks like, if we look at this, we're going to give our items a margin so they have some outside space around the paragraphs. Give it a border around the paragraphs. Give it some inside padding. Ooh, and I love me some border radius. And then we're going to turn this into 3-column grid. Yeah, okay, fantastic. Let's do that. I don't need to see you. I do need to see you. Okay, so we are going to first and foremost target all paragraphs. Now, this is actually kind of bad form, and I did this, and I also wanted to bring it up. Like, usually don't just target paragraphs, especially in like bigger and bigger programs. Applications are going to have so many paragraphs in so many different places. You don't want to accidentally target a paragraph that you're not looking for. So try and stick it to targeting things based on their classes. But here we're just going to do this because this is not going to be a very big program. It just exists right here as our exercise. So we're going to give it some margin. Let's look at these as we do it. Boom, refresh. Come on, where is this? All right, save. Booyah. Notice it gave a little bit of margin left, right, top, bottom. All right, sweet. We will also give it a border, yeah, of 2 pixels. Solid olive drab. That's such a cool color. All right, cool. Save. Boom. All right. Now we want to, of course, give a little padding so that the words aren't right up against the sides. We'll give that 10 pixels. Sure. That gives that little space in between the words and the border. Padding, very important. And then part of our box model, right? And then we have our border radius. I love me some border radius. Border radius is the coolest because that rounds the corners. And that's given in pixels. We'll give it 5 pixels, sure. Yeah, it gives that nice little like round. I like that. Looks pretty good, I think. And now we're gonna target the content, which was that div, remember, that's holding all of this. That div that contains all 3 paragraphs. This one, there it closes. Yep. So we're saying, hey, make that div display like a grid. Display like a grid. Display like a grid. And also, PS, make the grid template. Whoops, grid template. Columns. We're setting the columns to be equally 1 frame, 1 frame, 1 frame. Sure. Okay, that'll work. All right, now check this out. We look at this, boom, this is our starting place. Looking good. Boom, boom, boom. We got 3 columns. Now, when this, a lot of times when you get websites, right, you make it smaller, the columns don't look so good. When you look on a phone, you don't want 3 tiny little columns. Let's make our first media query so that when it gets small, when it's like on a phone size, that it just turns into 1 column. Let's do that. Okay. So, that's exactly where we go right here. Talk about this. All right. So the way we're going to add a media query, and I'll show us that, is with this at media, and we're going to add that at the very bottom of our CSS. And we're going to target screens by saying at media only screens. And then that parentheses, we're going to put our really like our the max or min, like the thing that's going to determine what the breakpoint is. Here's some basic breakpoints that are common. Breakpoints are different because, you know, different screens are different sizes. We know this even from, like, I don't know, an i12 to an i13 or whatever they're on nowadays. I don't know. The width and stuff is different. So here's some general breakpoints. Looking at phones, if you make it so that it's less than 600 pixels. 600 pixels would be like really wide for a phone, but anything smaller than 600 pixels would probably be a phone. So we could set the max width at 600 pixels. Furthermore, you can set the min width of the media type and so on, and I'll show you exactly how we're going to do that right here. So let's go to back to our CSS, and we're going to make that breakpoint right here. And we're going to do 2 things. We're going to invert the colors, rad, and then we're also going to booyah, display it as a block so that it no longer displays as that grid. Great. So let's do that. All right, here we go. So at the media, where we're talking about screens, and the max width of those screens is 600 pixels. Do the following. And then here we can do all the styles like usual. So for our P's, for our paragraphs, let's do what we just said. Border, give it a border of 2 pixels, solid orange. Oops. And we'll give it a background color of olive drab. Okay, so what we're doing here, T-E-N-T, we are D-I-S-P-L-A-Y. Sorry, I'm having a hard time talking and typing at the same time. All right, here. So what we've just done here, we said that, all right, so up until you got 600 pixels wide, 600 pixels and less, do this stuff. Apply to the paragraph, make the border now solid orange, olive drab, and the content display block. We'll save it. Now, this is under 16 on the right here, so this actually might change this one on the right. And it did. All right, so if it's not clear what's going on there, let's take a look on the big screen here. So I refresh, boom, and notice we got 3 columns, right? Now, that's because this is pretty wide. If I start making this skinnier so that we get to 600, oh, there it is. As soon as it's small enough to be on the screen of a phone, boom, it starts applying that styling. Yep, and you can even use, so as you can see, awesome, works like so. Now, if we wanted to apply yet another one, I think we want to do one more. Let's make a breakpoint just to see how this would work, and we're going to add one more breakpoint for medium-sized screens. So again, a breakpoint is exactly that, this point at which things can break into this styling. And so here's our styling that we had before. Now what we're going to do is add this middle way styling. So this is going to be styling for 600 to 1000. So this is going to be from 600 is the phone size up to like a laptop, large devices, up to like a medium, yeah, what are they called? Tablets, yeah. So this will be our tablet size. So we'll have our phones styling is right there. Our boom, this is gonna be what's the middle ground, the template, like if you got one of those iPads or something like that, tablet, and then everything on top, right? This is the standard styling. This will get applied. All this gets applied unless overridden by something inside the block breakpoint. So let's add this middle styling for the tablets right now. Go on here, boom. It's going to be a media breakpoint as well. So I'm going to say, hey, at media, if the screen has a min width of 600 pixels, so it's at least 600 pixels, it's a screen, and it's a maximum width of 1000 pixels. That's not what 1000 is, 100 pixels, 1000 pixels. So this is between 600 and 1000, this stuff is gonna apply. Yeah, that's what that means. And we're just gonna do something to the paragraph. We'll leave it as 3, so we'll just apply a little bit of styling to the paragraph to show how this works. We'll change the border to 2 pixels solid black. Ooh. And the background color to red. Wow. Black and red, huh? All right. So In this middle ground, we're going to leave it. This style will still apply to the content. Notice as it's cascading from top to bottom, CSS. Cascading style sheets mean it goes from top to bottom. So this is going to apply to the content. That doesn't get overwritten here, so it'll continue to be that grid. It's just going to apply that style to the paragraph. It's not going to be until it gets really small to the phone that it also turns into that block. Let's see if that works. So refresh. I go to the corner. Boom. Let's resize this. Oh, there it is going to red and black. And then boom, there it is. It went to the other styling. Yep. The middle ground and then anything bigger. All right, cool. Yeah. So hopefully that's pretty simple and straightforward. These guys are how you make your breakpoints and media queries in order to make your site responsive. Happy coding.